As promised, for the final segment of this lecture, not a chess puzzle, but rather a piece of chess trivia. This chess set is famous. Can you tell me what major motion picture it appeared in, and for extra special bonus points, where the chess set actually comes from? Enjoy the lecture, and welcome back to CAMS 1103.
The first thing I want to take away from the Year of Living Dangerously is the idea of giving something up that's important to you. Just as Odysseus gives up his oar, Guy Hamilton gives up his eye and his tape recorder. And that by itself is very important. The idea that in order to escape, in order to leave behind a part of your life that was very, very important and helped you survive, but which you now want to move beyond, you need to give something up, is one that is a Rudy thing, a cultural truth value in and of itself. But there's a more important point here which has to do with the reel-to-reel tape recorder and the oar, because the reel-to-reel tape recorder is specifically the symbol of Guy Hamilton's job, just as the oar is specifically the symbol of Odysseus's job as a sailor, as a seafarer. But there's more, because at the end of that clip from Year of Living Dangerously, what we saw is that he gives up the tape recorder, and then the security people at the airport try to figure out what it is, and they end up ruining it. And they end up demonstrating that they have absolutely no understanding of what's going on with it. And it's at that point that he gives it up. There's something that is very closely and interestingly parallel in the Odyssey, because it's at the moment when the random wayfarer says, "Where are you going with that winnowing fan?" indicating that he doesn't understand that it's an oar and he doesn't know anything about this life Odysseus has been living out on the sea. It's at that moment when Odysseus is supposed to give the oar up and to plant the oar in the ground. And this is where the Odyssey has its amazingness made completely clear, because it goes much further than Year of Living Dangerously is able to, because there's another symbol involved here which is finally going to get us back to the moment in Book 24 that I started this section with. That is the moment when Agamemnon is telling Achilles about the wonderful funeral that Achilles had, about his wonderful grave mound. And in order to understand that, we have to go back again to the first Nakuya, because the very first soul of a dead guy that Odysseus runs into in the underworld is a guy named Elpenor. And Elpenor is a figure whom it's really easy to forget. He tells Odysseus that on the night before they left Circe's island to go to the underworld, he was drinking with his buddies, he was up on top of the roof, and as often happens when you're drinking, you forget to take the stairs when you want to go down, and he broke his neck, and is still lying there on Circe's island, and he begs Odysseus, and here we're at line 74 of Book 11, "But burn me there with all my armor that belongs to me, and heap up a grave mound beside the beach of the grey sea for an unhappy man, so that those to come will know of me. Do this for me, and on top of the grave mound plant the oar with which I rowed when I was alive and among my companions." This is the grave of a sailor, and it is what Odysseus is going to create for himself when he plants his oar in the ground. And at the same time, he is going to plant a winnowing fan in the ground because the oar has been mistaken for a winnowing fan. And here's the amazing thing. What is death for the sailor is life within the continuing cycle of the agricultural year for people who live in places like Ithaca, people who live in places like mainland Greece, people who are in the audience of the Homeric bards. To plant your winnowing fan in the ground means it's the end of another harvest. It's time to go on with your life. And Odysseus, too, in his Nostos, is going on with his life. His life as a mythic hero is over. His life as a regular person has begun. And thus he fulfills the promise of the very first line of the Odyssey. Andramoi enepemusa polutropon hos malabola. Tell me, muse, of the man of many ways. Well, here are two of his many ways. He was the man of the myth on the sea and at Troy, and now he is the man of agriculture and the man of home, the man of nostos. He has found, that is, a way to have his kleos and his nostos at the same time. He has found a way to die and yet to go on living as a regular, prosperous king in his home of Ithaca, with his father and his wife and his son all at his side. And so this is what Book 24 is telling us. It's telling us that the Odyssey is, once again, about being an Andra, about being a person and figuring out how to negotiate the parts of our lives that call us to be mythic and the parts of our lives that call us to be regular.